Sometimes, people lose long before they ever give up. Not because they lack talent, not because they didn't work hard enough, but because one day, someone who seems smarter, more experienced, more successful, looks you straight in the eye and calmly tells you why you're never going to make it. It was over. In about 20 seconds, when the door closed behind him, he stood there for a few more seconds, without moving, almost as if he expected someone to call him back. No one did. He started down the stairs, not the elevator, the stairs, one flight after another, as if every step bought him just a little more time before he'd have to admit to himself that this time it just wasn't enough. By the time he pushed through the heavy doors and stepped outside, there was nothing left to fix. The nearest intersection was less than 100 yards away. He walked slowly, not because he didn't know where he was going, but because, for the first time in a long while, he didn't care how long it took to get there. The light was already red. A small crowd waited at the crosswalk. One man kept checking his watch. Someone else was reading a newspaper. Another person was talking on the phone. He took his place among them. He didn't look at anyone. He just held the folder a little tighter. A gust of wind lifted the top page. A photograph was clipped to it. He quickly straightened it, then gently ran his hand along the edge, as if the biggest problem in his life was that the photo had gotten slightly bent. The light turned green. Everyone stepped off the curb. He took only a few steps before he realized he was still trying to make excuses for them. Maybe they were in a hurry. Maybe they had already chosen someone else. Maybe they weren't hiring that day. It was easier that way, a lot easier than admitting the alternative. The noise of traffic slowly faded behind him. Another kind of noise took its place. The dull clang of steel, the groan of a crane, the voices of workers finishing up for the day. He slowed his pace behind the chain-link fence. The crew was turning in their tools. Some had already changed out of their work clothes. Some were laughing. Some were hurrying home. Just another evening, just another job, just another life. He watched them a little longer than he needed to. Then he looked down at his hands. The calluses had almost disappeared. Only a few pale lines across his palms remained, a reminder that they'd come back tomorrow. And for a moment, he realized how simple a different life could be. Show up here every morning, collect a paycheck, never wait for an answer, never ask for a chance, never have to convince strangers that you deserve even a few minutes of their time. He looked at the construction site one more time, adjusted the folder under his arm, and kept walking. Ahead of him, the bright marquee of a movie theater lit up the street. A line had formed at the box office. People hurried to catch the evening showing. Giant movie posters covered the front of the building. Faces the whole world recognized. He stopped across the street, standing in the shade of the trees. Just then, the theater doors swung open. A crowd poured out. People were laughing, talking excitedly about the movie they had just seen. Some waved their hands as they argued over their favorite scenes. Others were already buying tickets for the next showing. And he remained exactly where he was, standing on the other side of the street. Evening slowly settled over the city. The streets grew quieter, one by one. The streetlights flickered on. He turned into a narrow side street. The bright storefronts were gone. The crowds were gone. The laughter was gone. Only old apartment buildings remained, peeling paint, rusted fire escapes. He stopped in front of the entrance, reached into his pocket for his key. For a few seconds, he just looked at the door. Then he unlocked it and stepped inside. He opened the folder, took out the photographs, studied them for a long time, then carefully placed them back, one by one, as if he were afraid to crease them. Beneath the photographs lay a worn notebook. He opened it. Several pages were filled with names, addresses, and phone numbers. Some had already been crossed out. He picked up a pencil, found the last address, and slowly drew a single line through it. He closed the notebook. He sat there without moving. The only sound in the room was the steady hum of an old fluorescent light out in the hallway. On the table beside the notebook sat a thick telephone directory. He stared at it for a long moment, then reached for it, opened it to the first page, and began to turn the pages. That night, he found another address. Then came another rejection, and another, and another. One day, they told him his accent was too strong, his build was too unusual, and that no one would ever be able to pronounce his last name. A few years later, that same accent was recognized by millions. That same last name, they told him to change, became famous around the world. And the body they saw as a flaw became the thing that made him a legend. His name was Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it all began that night, when, after yet another rejection, he didn't close the door on his dream. He opened the phone book.